I have a question for Ajahn Kovilo. Last week you mentioned love in the guided meditation. Would you be willing to share a definition of love?
Yeah, that was, for people who weren't here, it was just experimenting with, for me, and I think for many people, using a mantra or some kind of meditation word can really help you stay with the breath. So if you're just trying to watch the breath without anything else, it's easy to just stray off somewhere. So the Thai forest tradition that we come from, the main meditation word is just Buddho, which means awake. So that is great for a lot of people, but extending that, so I've been experimenting with a 3-part mantra. So for 6, 3 in and out breaths. So Buddho, Dhammo, Saṅgha, on 3 successive in and out breaths. And to make that more meaningful, rather than it just being a way to count the time and the breath, you can take Buddho as just a symbol for wakefulness, so being awake, and Dhammo, a symbol for that which is true. And yeah, being wakeful and true are 2 aspects of a human experience that most people want to lean into and experience more of. And for Saṅgha, just being a symbol for love. And here, yeah, really referring to metta or loving kindness. Ajahn Nyāniko uses the term pure love as a translation for metta, which is usually translated as loving kindness. And it is, yeah, Greek had a number of different words for different types of love. You've got philia, which is brotherly love. You've got storge, which is, I think, family love. And then you've got agape, which is quite similar to metta, or just universal love. It's not directional. It's not shooting your metta lasers at anybody. It's just an emanation, kind of a radiation of a loving friendliness. And friendliness is also really good. So for me, that word isn't problematic. It's just, the concept of a pure love and a friendliness, the essence of friendliness. And I think that can be a nice way to think about Saṅgha, is just the external love, both our relationship to that external and that external relationship to us as being one of friendliness and love. So that's, I think, what I was experimenting with. And with any English words, Pali is just so beautiful because the words really do oftentimes have a very clear valence. Metta is just always positive. It's not mixed up with all the types of difficult loves that we have in English. So people can experiment with that, and if it works for you, having Saṅgha be equated with love, then experimenting with that, just a softness and a kindness. So that's kind of what I was pointing to. Yeah. Do you want to add anything?
So about the meditation that you just led, did you say the wick was at the nose? Okay, because it felt like it was at my heart.
This is the problem with, for me, there's the actual center point is somewhere, it's a balance between the heart and the nose. There's like a clarity at the nose, but a centeredness to the heart. And I find that's where I actually come to the center. But every time I try to add like some nuance like that, people push back and say I'm not being clear. So I'm sort of caught between these 2 things. But no, I have the same experience. With me, the center point is this place somewhere between the nose and the heart. And good read, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I was confused, but I was able to get below my thoughts into my body, so that was beautiful.
Yeah.
It felt like love,
Thank you, I really agree. That's good feedback, by the way. Thank you. I might make a PowerPoint. Ajahn Kovilo says I should make a PowerPoint. We should start a book club.
My question is about the concept of merit. I hear that word used a lot, that you can accumulate merit, you can dedicate merit. if you can accumulate it, can you lose it? What things are even meritorious? I've heard people have a good death because they've accumulated a lot of merit in their life. How do we use that concept in our everyday life? I don't use it. It's sort of a new word that I've heard. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Great question. And I think a lot of people have that same question. In English, you just find it in the context of Boy Scouts and, I don't know, merit badges. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, it does, when you first hear about it, it does seem like some kind of esoteric or spiritual economy, this kind of tit for tat, I do this and I get this type of thing. And yeah, the Pali and the Thai are much just less complicated. So the Thai is boon. You sometimes hear this boon. And so oftentimes I'll translate merit as the English word boon, B-O-O-N. You've got this boon in your life. And yeah, it is, I think one way the Buddha said, he was talking to monks, and there is this tendency, this kind of macho mentality for when people first come to a spiritual life and start believing that it's possible to transcend, or at least to really lessen their greed, anger, and delusion. That it's possible to attain enlightenment, and you might start looking down on the boon practices, the merit practice of just being generous, being a friendly person, creating concord in your family or whatnot. People can look down on that. So the Buddha was addressing a group of monks and said, monks, don't look down on puñña, don't look down on merit. Merit, puñña, is just another word for happiness. So that's one way to conceive of it. Conceiving it as something which, that you're accumulating. A related practice is sharing merit, which we'll do at the end of this morning, and that really is a useful practice. And however the psychodynamics of that work, whether we've got this internal merit bank account and we're like transferring to other people, or however it works, it's the process of dedication. Like if you've ever had a book dedicated to you, it feels really good. And I think that's just the main principle of dedicating merit. It's like, I've done something that's good, and recognizing that so much of our Western culture is about fault finding and getting better and better at seeing faults. And it's really easy to have this negativity bias where you just focus on all the things that we did wrong in a day. And that can be the shadow of an afternoon or a day. Whereas if you have this practice of transferring merit, dedicating merit at the end of a day, just recollecting the good things you've done. We spent all morning together trying to meditate, trying to examine these teachings of the Buddha, and remembering that, and then just saying, if there was any goodness of it, just like it's as if I wrote a book this morning, and I dedicate that to any being that might be able to hear that. I dedicate the goodness of my life, this merit, to all beings. And that, in itself, it does brighten the mind. Focusing on the good things that we've done is a very good habit, even if you don't believe in some kind of, if there's nothing else to it, then it's still good to brighten the mind and be able to realize that we do a lot. And this is one type of doing merit, is to recollect the merit that we've done and to transfer it. So that's a little bit. There's a lot to say, though. So I'd be curious, Ajahn, if you have more to say there.
Oh, that was a great rundown. Wholesome happiness, I think, is a great translation, and it is often associated with kind of this good karma done that will come back to you, whether as happiness in the moment, which is its own merit, like you give and you feel joy, but also this acknowledgement that the world sometimes answers as well. People know you're generous, they give to you, or they respect you more, etc. There's a question when I gave the talk on karma, like, what's the distinction between puñña, like this merit, and like the super mundane path towards awakening? And I think they just overlap a good deal. Often if you give with the goal of like, okay, this will come back to me, that might just be kind of a purely, a lower intention. But if you give with the thought, okay, this is a beautiful act, it's part of me giving up this sense of self and towards awakening, suddenly you're bringing the path and this practice of merit all into one, and it supercharges it, basically. And with dedication of merit, it is a strong practice, especially towards the dead in Thai. And this acknowledgement by the Buddha that there are beings in realms somewhat near to us that sometimes can actually receive that goodness. And yeah, rather than it being, like Ajahn Kovilo said, an esoteric economy, just you're inviting someone to identify with the goodness you're doing. That's it. You know, it feels good if you're like, you know, I gave a donation and I thought of you the whole time. You know, it was you in my heart, and it's that simple. You know, but I think most cultures remember their dead in this way, and only kind of in elements of Western secular culture have we totally let that go. So.
Just real quick, there is a great quote in the canon where the Buddha talks about storing your money where it can't be taken away by kings, i.e. taxes, and it can't be taken away by thieves, i.e. theft, and it can't be taken away by fire, can't be taken away by flood, and that storehouse is this storehouse of merit. So in terms of it disappearing, it's like you can, you know, store up merit, and you can lose the habit of making merit. Like if I just have a great habit, I do it every day for a year, I give, you know, some piece of food before I eat to someone else. If I don't do that, then I'll be losing the habit of mind to be able to make that kind of merit, to be able to do that kind of good. But in terms of all the good I did last year, that doesn't disappear. It's still there, in a sense. Yeah.
This is a really fun topic. One of the suttas I think maybe Ajahn Kovilo is referencing, or it's adjacent, is the Buddha says, when the house is on fire, the vessel salvaged will be the one of good use, one of use. So when this world is on fire with birth, aging, and death, that which is given is well salvaged. So all we keep is what we give away. Only what we give away is what we actually keep. And that's the inversion. Like Eden's right here. You just have to invert everything you see into this negative photograph and see that all we give away is that's what we actually end up keeping with us. And do you all want to hear like a slight ghost story? It's okay. So I was staying with a very secret Kruba Ajahn. Like not many people know about him, but he's the last novice that Ajahn Chah ordained. And when Ajahn Chah asked him why he wanted to ordain, he said he wanted to fly. And Ajahn Chah said, best just to fly over the defilements. So a very Ajahn Chah answer. But he's a very special Ajahn. I lived with him for a year, and really powerful mind. I'd see him bless things, and all of his hair would stand up on end, like, and one day there's a nurse that came to the monastery named Yom Nit, and this Ajahn said, Yom Nit, do you have a blind black cat? And Yom Nit said, no, but yesterday I was driving and I saw this carcass of this black cat on the side of the road with its eyes all crusted up. And I felt the surge of loving kindness. And Ajahn Tong said, yeah, you know, actually I had a nimitta, a vision last night, and that cat came to me and it said that it felt your love and it wanted you to do good in its name and dedicate the merit to it. So, you know, I mean, it's very foreign to our secular culture, and you don't have to believe in these things, but it's hard to come out of Thailand without kind of thinking there might be more going on than we think. So whenever I see something, a dead animal, like just remembering that and how much more our own relatives. And like Ajahn Kovilo said, even if that's not true, at least it is a good way to change your relationship to the dead, is remembering goodness in their name. I think we have room for one more. Kirk/Zoom via Kirk. Maybell or Mabel, please.
Thank you, Venerables. I would like to ask, in relationship to grief, there is grief rituals and invitations, even from monastics, to grief, and there are benefits to opening the heart, dropping delusion, and the emotional nature of grief and the process seems to me contrary to equanimity. And how can I understand the process of grieving and the invitation to grieve so I can accept what's going on, accept reality as it is, and also consider the Brahma Viharas and the Four Noble Truths. I think I have a little confusion about the process of grieving and the teachings. Yeah.
So just to check, that was about grief and grieving. I heard greed at first, so.
Yes.
Yeah, very different.
Grief.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mabel. Yeah, no, it's if we live long enough, it'll be a part of all of our lives, and part of the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is the truth of dukkha, or the truth of the whole spectrum of loss, losing that which we love, being separated from that which we want, being associated with that which we don't want. These are all just the shades of dukkha, the shades of suffering, stress. And the Buddha gave duties or moves he associated with each one of these Four Noble Truths. So the first noble truth is to be known. The duty, when you see dukkha in your own heart, whatever the level of that, the immediate human response, or even not human, just sentient response. You've got little slime molds and things that as soon as they get like dukkha, they're just like, whoa, don't want any of that. You poke them, and they're like, quit poking me. So like no sentient being wants dukkha. And the Buddha's genius was to not necessarily just recoil from the pokes of a life. And grief is that. So when we feel this dukkha, the duty is to understand it, and that's very difficult for all the reasons that it's hard to be with pain, and grief is intense, acute, and sometimes prolonged and chronic pain. So it's a good test, and it's a good learning experience, even though it feels so hard. But it can be a learning experience if you can sit with it and just not lean in. So this is, with the things that we want, the pleasurable things in the world, the human sentient response is just to lean in, to want more of that, to just feed off of the beautiful and tasty things of the world. And our response to the things we don't like, all of the separation and loss that we experience, is to lean away, to push away. Whereas the Buddhist path is one of being able to just sit with balance, or stand with balance, move through the world with balance, and not have to recoil from the things that are unpleasant. So it's good training, and to be able to frame it like that hopefully can give some solace as we stay with the pain of it.
Hi everyone, I'm Alejandro. I have a sharing and also a huge thank you, if I may, for the Kovilo project. So I met Ajahn Nisabho it'll be 4 years in September, just randomly at the Seattle Asian Art Museum. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing here? Are you an angel on earth? I was like, wow, a Buddhist monk. And he told me about this whole project. This was September 2021. They're meeting under a tree. And I said, that is so cool. I'm going on a Goenka retreat. Do you have any tips for meditation? And that was it. For 9 months, I was just going on meditation retreats. I didn't even try to engage with Clear Mountain. After my second retreat, I was like, I gotta find this guy. Because I think like many of us, we come to Buddhism or meditation just as a optimization project. How can I be a little bit better? How can I cope? How can I use this as therapy? After 2 retreats, I was like, there is more to this than just self-optimization, big mindfulness. So I started coming to Clear Mountain here in this hall, and I was so nervous. I wouldn't talk to anyone. It was like the first weeks I was like, I was like, this is cool, but, and then honestly, just a few weeks into coming here, I'm buying a ticket to go on pilgrimage with these two. I come here June. June will be 3 years. And then a few weeks later, I'm buying tickets to Thailand. I'm like, wow, I've never been to Asia. And so I went from, the heart moved a little bit. I went from treating this as an optimization project to kind of a knowledge exploration. So I think, like many of us, we try to treat, I was in the phase of the Dhamma practice that is like, oh, this is a philosophy of the mind. Let me feed the mind. Let me just feed the mind with the new Brahmin class, college professors. Let me let them explain Buddhism to me through all these books, and rather than like actually listening to the Ajahns. I think when I look back at that phase, it was like, okay, I was just obsessed with right thought, not right action, not the balance of right thought and right action. I'll tell you the most embarrassing thing I've done at Clear Mountain. We were a much smaller group 3 years ago, and I get an email about alms and it said, oh, hey, the alms calendar is, we haven't been doing our diligence as a community in going to alms. And I don't know if the Ajahns were aware of this. I just deleted that email. I didn't do anything with it. That was the most embarrassing thing I've done at Clear Mountain. I get an email for help from a community member, and I just delete the email. And that was somebody who was just obsessed with right thought. Right thought, right? Let me make sure I'm doing Buddhism right. And not so I go on the pilgrimage, I come back, and I think little by little you start balancing right thought with right action. You start realizing all the little ways that just action changes your heart. And it also becomes much harder to, I would say this, like, a lot of my practice now is like being embarrassed with myself, that I acted a certain way, that I treated somebody this way, that I said that. So I'm very grateful for that, for being embarrassed all the time, and humbled all the time. Like last October, I was randomly pepper sprayed right before work. And I would say I was able, honestly, I'm so grateful for this practice because I think when I think back at that moment, my first thought is, who else? Why would I want this to be anyone else? Why would I want anyone in this room to have been randomly pepper sprayed? Or anyone else in the world? It happened to me. And so I'm very grateful to genuinely believe that in my heart. Like, why anyone else? I'm very grateful for this practice when I fast, and I'm hungry in the afternoon. And I'm grateful that I know hunger. Because now when I see the news, and I see conflicts across the world, and I see people walking long lines to get food, I'm grateful to genuinely know the experience, to understand that human experience. So my Dhamma practice recently has just been being really embarrassed by how I act all the time, every day. Every day is a new opportunity to be embarrassed by myself. And I also want to, what's been meaningful this past year, besides being pepper sprayed, so I would whisper, you know how we all whisper things in our heart, like, ooh, I hope this happens. One of the things that I would whisper in my heart is, oh, what if I could bring Dhamma to Cuba, where I was born? And just think about that, like, all of our wishes, feel Herculean, I just can't believe what has manifested over the past year. So, about a year ago, I was at alms, and one of our community members, Brianna, was like, oh, I met a Cuban-American nun who's starting a project in Cuba. I was like, can you believe that? Like, how many Cuban-Americans are there? Not that many. And then for there to be a Cuban-American nun, I was like, wow, let me connect with this. Let me connect with her. Over the past year, this has been one of the most beautiful things in my life. I tell the Ajahns, I'm like, my heart is in two places, Seattle and Havana. I can't split it anymore, I'd die. Maybe. I want to say thank you to this community, because some of you have asked me, you're like, oh, I wish I could go to Cuba with you. I was like, maybe one day, but I would say you're all there with me, because every conversation I have here really does change the heart. And sometimes I'm so annoyed when I come here. I'm like, oh my gosh. But you know what? It's like what the Ajahn say. It's like a rock tumbler. It's like to get to purify the rock, or to get the precious metal out. It has to like go through a process of friction. And even the moments of friction just change the heart tremendously. It's like I'm not the same Alejandro. It's just impossible. I'd be lying to say that not every single person here does not leave a fingerprint in my heart or in our hearts. You're all there with me in Cuba. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for all the beautiful moments and all the moments of friction that do challenge all of us. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's, I think you've seen on WhatsApp that I've asked for donations to Cuba. It's just been, the outpouring has been tremendous. It's over 120 items. I haven't even calculated what that is in dollar amount. I don't even think I don't know if I even want to. It's just so beautiful. If I had received 10 items, I would be up here saying thank you. But to receive over 120 items, it's just so beautiful. So thank you for your trust in me. Many of you may never go to Cuba, and so it is not lost on me the tremendous amount of trust you have put into me. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I leave next week, next Saturday. So I have an obligation at work next Saturday. So this is, I'll see you guys in a few weeks after that.
Hi, just real quick, this is Allison, and I was on pilgrimage with Alejandro, and just so you all know, he was the steward of Clear Mountain mala beads that got carried around everywhere to be blessed. So there was right action there. You were doing so much, so just wanted to say that.
Let's do, James, can you hold on just for one person in person, and then we'll switch to you? Come on up. And then we'll go to James.
Hi, I'm really new here, and I'm really happy to be here in this Saṅgha. I would say in 1999, I was dealing with a lot of fear of dying young, like my mother and my grandmother. And I walked into a bookstore, and I just sort of walked over. I was feeling really desperate. I walked over to a shelf. I put my hand up and kind of blindly and picked out a book, and it was Pema Chodron, When Things Fall Apart. And I opened the book, and it said, Intimacy with Fear. And I just started reading it, and I realized I was reading the truth. I mean, I just knew in my whole being that I was reading the truth. And then I tried to meditate by myself for like a year, and it didn't go very well. And I thought, yeah, this is the truth. I got to follow this, but I didn't really know how. And then there was a lot more fear that was going on with some medical stuff I had to check out. And I heard about this meditation course with Rodney Smith, the Sims, and I thought, okay, everything feels like it's sort of falling off the cliff, and everything feels kind of gray, but there's this thing I'm going to go to in a couple months, and it feels like the only thing that's real, even though I didn't really know anything about it. I just was like, that's where I have to go. And I went and heard the Dhamma, and again, just knew in my whole being that it was the truth. It's hard to say this without crying. Yeah. So I just kept practicing, and you know, I read some, but mostly I just kept practicing, and I just knew that it was the truth because it kept showing up in my life in all these ways. And, you know, experiences like being caught in extreme anger. This was only a few years ago. Extreme anger. I was standing in my office. There was a thing with a medical thing and insurance companies, and I was so angry, and I was just enraged, and I was standing there. And something came to me that said, well, you have a choice. You can keep going with this anger, or you can let it go. And it just dropped, and I felt this bliss that I just couldn't even believe. And I just was floating, and I mean, I knew it was some kind of wisdom coming from the Dhamma. And you know, things like that just keep me in this practice. And so for many years now, I've been sitting with my teachers, Steve Armstrong and Kamala Masters, and I go there every year and sit with them for a month, but they're far away. So I have been missing in-person, larger Saṅgha, and I have a small group of other students of Steve and Kamala's, but which is wonderful, but it's really wonderful to be here with a larger Saṅgha in Seattle. So I'm looking forward to getting to know many of you and practicing with you, so thank you.
Matthew. And by that I mean Louis.
Hello, my name's Louis. Let's see. Through my 30s and 40s especially, I struggled with anxiety and depression and had every treatment the cornucopia of Western science I could consume from that cornucopia. And was having trouble leaving the house, trouble working. But my beautiful spouse had given me the little pocket version of the Dhammapada, and I'd read Alan Watts a little bit and getting more into the kind of intellectual side of the psychological side of Buddhism. One day I was like trying to get up the courage to leave the house and just wasn't sure I was gonna make it. And I was in the kitchen and I heard, with our thoughts we make the world. And I was like, okay, this is either really good or this is really bad. And I looked out and the sun was shining and I was like, oh my God, I am doing this and doing this all to myself. This is me, it was like a dirty shower curtain came down, and it wasn't like it was the land of milk and honey after that, but that was a real pivotal point. It's like, there's a lot more to this than a really helpful philosophy and interesting psychology. And so that was my journey to Buddhism. My journey to Clear Mountain was I really wanted to find Saṅgha, because it was this triple gem thing, and okay, I need to do this number 3. And I was like, I had it all figured out. It's going to be a stone temple of some kind with monastics, and there's going to be palm trees, and I was like, and this is a gym? Like, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, okay, Saṅgha as practice. Just go in and just accept every little part of it, and it's been a beautiful journey for me since then, so thank you.
All right, now let's get 3 big sadhus all in synchrony. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.